Okay, I'm going to go over these problems from the pre-test, and hopefully that will help you to prepare for your final exam, your post-test. Okay, so we're going to take a look at each one of these problems. Starting with number 1 here, it says to change the following mixed number to an improper fraction. The process to change a mixed number to an improper fraction is fairly simple. You take your denominator and you multiply it times your whole number. So 5 times 9, which is 45. And then you add 1, or you add the top number to that total. So 5 times 9 is 45, plus 1 is 46. So my answer will be 46 over 5. Your denominator will always stay like it is. Okay, so again, change this mixed number to an improper fraction. 36 times 1 is 36, plus 25 is 61. So that will give us 61 over 36. Okay, and remember, you can pause this video at any time if you need to. Okay, change the improper fraction to a mixed number. All right, so or a whole number. So to do this, you want to use your long division. So 36 into 114. 36 will go into, won't go into 1, won't go into 11. 36 will go into 114 about 3 times. So we'll put our 3 up here. Take the 3, multiply it times the 36 that's on the outside, and that gives us 108. Subtract, and we get 6. So the 3 up here, whatever number you have up top, that will be your whole number. Your remainder will be the top number of your fraction. And again, your denominator always stays the same. Now this says to make sure that you simplify your answer. So in other words, this 6 over 36 can be simplified. We could divide each one of those numbers by 6 to simplify that fraction to make that 3 and 1/6. Okay. To multiply improper fractions, you want to, or mixed numbers, you want to change them into improper fractions first. So this first one, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8 over 3, times, change this one to an improper fraction, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7 over 4. Next, multiply top times top, 8 times 7, 56. And then the bottom number times the bottom number, 3 times 4 is 12. And then simplify. So I think we can divide each one of these numbers by 4 to simplify. So 56 divided by 4 gives us 14. And then 12 divided by 4 gives us 3. So 14 over 3. And that would not be entirely correct because my blue tells me to type it as a whole number, proper fractional, or a mixed number. As it is right now, that is an improper fraction. So we need to convert that into a mixed number. So 3 would go into 14 about 4 times, which would give us 12. So that gives us 2 left over, 4 and 2/3. So make sure you read your directions down here. It'll tell you exactly how to type your answer in. Okay, Liz is baking a cake for a dinner party. The recipe calls for 1/3 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup sugar for the frosting, and 5/6 cups sugar for the cake. How many total cups of sugar does she need? Type as a whole number or a simplified fraction. Well, we're going to add those, so we have 1/3 plus 5/6. Now, in order to add fractions, you must have a common denominator. So the common denominator, or the first number that those two denominators will go into, is 6. So I'll rewrite my fractions to have a denominator of 6. So since I multiplied 3 times 2 to get 6, I also have to multiply 1 times 2, which is 2. My second fraction already had a denominator of 6. So 2/6 plus 5/6 is 7/6. And that's okay because my fraction is simplified. I cannot divide I can't divide 7 or 6 by any common factor. So remember, to add or subtract fractions, you must have a common denominator. Okay. All right, subtracting these mixed numbers, I still need a common denominator. So my common denominator for 10 and 5 is 10. So my first fraction already had a denominator of 10, so I don't have to change anything there. My second fraction or mixed number did not. So in order to make this denominator 10, I had to multiply by 2. So I need to multiply the top number by 2 also. So now that I have that common denominator, I can subtract these. 7 tenths minus 2 tenths, 7 minus 2 is 5 tenths, and 21 minus 14 is 7. So that gives me 7 and 5 tenths. Now again, we need to make sure that we simplify our fraction. 5 will go into both of those numbers. So 5 tenths is the same thing as 1/2, 7 and 1/2. Make sure your fractions are fully simplified. Okay, round to the nearest tenth. That means the first number after the decimal is what we're looking at. That's the number we want to round. We look to the number that's to the right of that, 6, to tell us whether we round up or leave it the same. Now, since we have 3 right there, which is less than 5, I'm going to leave that 6 just like it is. So my answer will be 8.6. If that would have been that 3 would have been a 5 or higher, then I would have rounded that up to 8.7. Okay, sorry about that. All right, add. So we want to add these decimal numbers, and we just add straight up and down. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 0 is 5. 6 plus 9, drop your decimal straight down. Make sure they're lined up. 6 plus 9 is 15. So 15.55. So just make sure your decimals lined up and you add straight up and down. Same thing with subtraction. Make sure your decimals are lined up and then you subtract. The decimal point will come straight down. 5 minus 4 is 1. 3 minus 8, I cannot subtract that, so I'm going to have to borrow from this 5 to make that 13. So 13 minus 8 is 5. Now 4 minus 6, I can't subtract that because it's too small, so I'm going to have to borrow from the 8 to make that 7, and that'll become 14. 14 minus 6 is 8, and then bring down the 7, 78.51. Okay, insert a less than or greater than. Okay, so we're comparing two negative numbers. Now remember, if you think about your number line, the farther you go to the left on your number line, the smaller the value. So the larger the negative number gets, the smaller its value. So negative 19 is less than negative 14. Negative 14 is close to 0 on that number line, so it's bigger than negative 19. Negative 19 is less than negative 14. Okay. Negative 30 times negative 2. Anytime you multiply numbers that have the same sign, like two negatives or two positives, your result will be positive. So negative 30 times negative 2 is positive 60. Okay, multiplying all of these numbers. This is all multiplication. The key here is that there's a 0. And we know that 0 times anything is 0. So I don't care how many numbers we're multiplying. If there's a 0 times those numbers, then our result is going to be 0. Okay. Now here we have to use the order of operations. So we have negative 6 divided by negative 2 times 5. So remember your order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The multiplication and division, they hold the same power. So if you have both multiplication and division in your problem, you perform the operation that comes first. So in this case, I would divide first because that's the operation that I see first. I would divide -6 divided by -2. Again, we're dividing numbers with the same sign. That gives us +3. And then I take that result and multiply it times the 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, solving for this variable. I'll tell you what, we're going to stop it here and we'll come back with a part 2.